Am I the a-hole for keeping my website up after being asked to remove it? Am I the a-hole for not telling my dad he isn't getting the inheritance he's expecting? Am I the a-hole for ruining Thanksgiving? I, 30 female, met my boyfriend, 30 male, 3 years ago. Before me, he was together with his high school sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. A year later, we started dating. His mom, however, was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship, his mom would call me X's name until BF got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said it was just a habit. After that, she started calling me the wrong name, Janet instead of Jenny, fictional names just for the story. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it later. My BF has 2 sisters, and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to BBQ at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my BF's mom, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my BF praised my cooking to her husband, and the mom was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my BF what happened. On Thanksgiving, we went to his mom's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What? I thought Janet is bringing the turkey." There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My BF is so angry with me, and he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over, TBH. But I still don't think I did anything wrong. Did I? Was it a little rude? Sure. But were they being mean to you for over a year? Yeah, they deserved a little payback, and it's not your fault that they're such babies that they scream and cry because a turkey isn't at Thanksgiving. Not the a-hole. Who expects someone to arrive at their house with a fully cooked turkey? Technically, she did agree to bring the turkey, but at the same time, who doesn't have a backup plan? And did they just not have mashed potatoes and, everything else you eat at Thanksgiving? Everyone sucks here. I don't blame you for stooping to their level, but you should have told your BF what you were doing so he wasn't walking into that show unprepared. Fair enough. Fair criticism. I agree. They effed around and found out. Especially after knowing you for over a year and having no respect to call you by your regular name, I think they deserved it. Am I the a-hole for telling a social worker the real reason my sister wants a foster kid? So this is a throwaway account. While my sister doesn't use Reddit, we have mutual friends who do. I'm a 28 female and I have a sister, 36 female. For the sake of story, I'll just call Jane. Jane is married to Bob, and they have 2 kids, boy and girl. My niece and nephew are wonderful kids, and no trouble at all. They fight as siblings do, but nothing big. I love them. Now, for about 2 years, I did live with my sister. It was a miserable time that really affected our relationship. She saw me as free labor, money, and babysitting. Even when I managed to get a small part-time job, she demanded I hand over nearly half my pay or get out. It was hell, as she took completely advantage of me. I moved out as soon as I could, and we have little contact outside of family gatherings. Now, after I moved out, she started complaining how she has no help with the kids and never gets a break. I babysat sometimes, but I have made it clear, just because I am off work doesn't mean I want an 8-hour day with my niece and nephew. Anyway, she started talking about how she wanted to foster a kid. Not a kid, but a teenager. I pressed her for more info on this. She wanted to adopt a teenager so she has a live-in babysitter for her kids. This is her logic. I want a kid around 16 or 17. Someone who may have been in the system for a while. They can share a room with your nephew. She only has a 3-bedroom house. Or sleep in the garage. They can help with the housework, chores, cook, and help me with my business. She bakes and sells cookies. Also babysit the kids, so me and Bob can go out sometimes or have some alone time. They'll be so grateful for a home and won't complain. I won't have to pay them at all. And then when they turn 18, I can just sign up for another foster kid. A teenager will be so much easier than a little kid. They will be grateful just to have a roof, food, siblings if they have been separated from their real ones, and clothes. I was horrified. Told her it was a horrible idea. She didn't listen to me. She went on with it anyway. About a month ago, a social worker showed up at my apartment to ask me some questions about my sister. She had put me down as a character witness or something like that. I immediately told the social worker why my sister really wanted to foster a kid and how she treated me when I lived with her. The lady thanked me. My sister called crying, saying that she wouldn't be considered for any adoptions or fosters. The social worker told her that they felt her home and her weren't a good fit. She asked if I said anything and I told the truth. She went off on me, hung up, and we haven't spoken since. She has sent some angry texts. A couple family members are on her side. They think foster kids are effing dogs or something and would be so happy just to have a roof and would gladly do all the housework. So, am I the a-hole here? Absolutely not. You are not the a-hole. Your sister is evil. Like, straight up. Thinking a foster kid is just some free labor shop. And I'm assuming once they turn 18, your sister's gonna want to just kick them to the curb and get them out of there. Not the a-hole. You told the truth and saved a teenager from a terrible life of being used and dumped for another, which is no way to treat anyone. It is a foster child, not a slave. That's just slavery with extra steps. For real, this sister thinks it's like, oh, go to the foster care house and just get an indentured servant. Am I the a-hole for canceling Mother's Day celebration that I arranged for my wife after hearing what she told my son? I, male, 37, have a 13-year-old son. I was a widower when I met my now wife. She has a 16-year-old daughter from another relationship. The family is often on pretty good terms. My son is the quiet one in the house. He keeps to himself a lot, but not to the point of being concerning. My wife and stepdaughter are the complete opposite. They both encourage him to be outgoing and share activities and join gatherings with extended family. My son complained about having to be forced out of his comfort zone and having his need for space invalidated. I spoke to both my wife and stepdaughter and asked them to give him some space and freedom to spend his time however he wants. They apologized and promised to let him be. As Mother's Day was approaching, I wanted to throw my wife a surprise Mother's Day celebration. It was no longer a surprise because my stepdaughter gave her the heads up so she could prepare. Yesterday, I got off work earlier than usual to get final arrangements done. We planned to celebrate at the restaurant and invited her family there. I had the key, and while I was entering the house through the front door, I overheard my wife and stepdaughter talking to my son. My wife was asking my son if he could convince me to let him stay home and not go with them to the restaurant to celebrate. I paused and decided to keep listening. My son said why, and she told him that his introverted and socially inept attitude will make her family uncomfortable and will ruin the mood. He promised her that he'd be well behaved and would try to interact and socialize with everyone, but she said that she wasn't buying it. He kept reassuring her, but she snapped and told him that technically she's not his mom, so she didn't get why he wanted to celebrate Mother's Day with her so badly. My stepdaughter threw some, I don't remember, backhanded comment, and then both of them were shocked to see me standing there. Both were staring without saying anything. I told my son and his stepdaughter to go to their rooms, then told my wife that the celebration was off, canceled. She tried to argue, asking why repeatedly, and I told her why. She tried to explain that she didn't mean it like that and that I only heard part of the conversation, but not all of it. I told her I was done arguing and the decision was already made. She yelled, asking what she was going to tell her family, and said that I was making tremendous mistake towards her. I ignored her while she kept throwing tantrum after tantrum. Early this morning, she took my stepdaughter and went to stay with her folks. Not a single call or text from her so far. Situation is full of tension. I'm upset still, but more hurt to be honest. I mean, yes, I did say I was going to have this celebration, but I thought what she said to my son was too harsh to ignore. You are definitely not the asshole here. You can't let people talk to your family that way, like regardless of their relationship to you, wife or not. Like, you don't let somebody talk to your immediate family that way, let alone give them a gift after they do it, i.e. that celebration. Not the a-hole. She showed you who she was. Let her stay gone. Not the a-hole. Your wife and stepdaughter, on the other hand. Yeah, those people are pieces of work from what I'm hearing. Am I the a-hole for getting my daughter a hotel room entirely for herself after her stepsisters made her sleep on the floor? My dad passed away 2 weeks ago. Me, my wife, Candace, and my daughter, 16, Shiloh, and her stepsisters, 19 and 17, flew to my hometown to attend the funeral. After that, we got 2 hotel rooms, one for me and Candace, one for the girls. While I was in the room, I got a call from Shiloh at 11 p.m. crying and sounded like she was arguing with her stepsisters. I asked what the matter was, and she told me that her stepsisters insisted that she sleep on the floor. There were one large bed in the room and there was enough space for all 3 girls to sleep on. I asked why, and she said she didn't know. I went to see what the issue was and talked with my stepdaughters about it. They kept talking, but didn't really explain why they told told her to sleep on the floor. They just shrugged and said, "It's better this way. We're more comfortable this way." I told Shiloh to grab her things, and when one of my stepdaughters asked where we were going, I told her I was booking her a hotel room. Both looked upset but didn't say anything, but they must have called their mom because she was awake when I got back and started arguing with me about giving Shiloh an entire hotel room for herself. I explained why I did it, but she said I wasted money and that Shiloh could have sucked it up for one night on the floor. I called her unreasonable for saying this, but she told me I showed the girls that I'm playing favorites and made my stepdaughter share a room while I gave my daughter an entire room for herself. We went home and Candace is still bringing it up, saying I mishandled this. She even pointed out how my stepdaughters are upset since they're not speaking to me. Ooh, this one's kind of tricky. I see what the mom is saying, that it's a little bit of a waste of money just to book a whole room for one person, but at the same time, the stepdaughters are clearly plotting something and they don't like your daughter, so I don't know. Not the a-hole. Why did the stepsisters think that this was acceptable? This ain't Cinderella. I'm glad you did what you did. Reward my daughter's bad behavior to your daughter because they are my daughters. Not the a-hole, and both your stepdaughters and wife are. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my girlfriend to stop effing eating? My male 26 sister, female 23, runs a bakery business and she's been struggling lately to keep up with orders because she's been short-staffed. She does a lot of orders for wedding cakes that require custard or marmalade fillings, and I offered to help her out by making these fillings at home and bringing them to her so she has less work to do. Unfortunately, the past 4 times I've made these fillings, my girlfriend, female 24, has literally dipped her fingers into the filling jars and contaminated them because, in her words, she just wanted to try some. I've tried explaining to her that she can't dip her fingers in and contaminate the entire batch because then I have to remake it. I said she should use a spoon and take some out if she wants to try so bad, but she just pouts and says that she likes using her fingers because it takes her back to her childhood. Today, I was trying to finish some chocolate custard to send it over to my sister really fast because she was running late on a wedding cake order for an important client. I told my girlfriend beforehand to not eat the custard, and if she really wanted to, please use a spoon. I get out of the shower, and what do I see? She has her fingers in it again. I totally lost it because this is the 5th time she blatantly disregarded what I said, and I yelled at her and told her to stop effing eating the food I'm making because it's not for her and she's contaminating it. She started crying and got mad at me for fat shaming her, even though I made no comment on her weight and she has no history of weight issues or eating disorders. I know I was harsh, but she kept pushing my limits. Am I the a-hole? I will agree you might have been a little harsh by just snapping and yelling like that, but your girlfriend is kinda dumb, so I don't know if you're the asshole. Your girlfriend is just not smart. Does she also wear a diaper and draw on the walls with crayons because it reminds her of her childhood? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She's exhausting and sounds like she's trying to sabotage you helping your sister. Am I the a-hole for giving my mother-in-law a fake copy of my house key and exposing her on Christmas dinner? I want to preface this by saying that I, female 34, married my husband, male 37, a year ago. His mom is snoopy and annoying AF. She can't help it. That is just how she is, as my dear in-laws say. My husband and I purchased a new house recently. My mother-in-law kept pushing to get an emergency key. She promised that she only use it in an emergency, but given the fact that she had an emergency key to our old apartment and walked in on us being intimate twice, but my husband didn't think it was a big deal, I just couldn't trust her, so I just sent her a fake key after she kept pushing, and she had a smug on her face after I hand-delivered it to her. Days gone by, and on Christmas dinner, mother-in-law angrily called me out on the fact I gave her a fake copy of the house key. She shamed me for doing this in front of everyone, but in my defensive, I asked her how she found out, and she said days ago when she came over at 4 while my husband and I were out. I reminded her, didn't you promise you wouldn't use it unless there's an emergency? So you tried to get in when there was no emergency and you broke the promise you made to us. She looked red in the face, and the other family started staring, and some even laughed at her for the face she made. She suddenly got up from her seat and rushed into the kitchen where she had a huge meltdown, so loud the next door neighbors must have heard. Literally, I've never heard a 60-plus-year-old woman throw a tantrum like that. Needless to say, dinner went awkward, and my husband and his sister were giving me looks. My husband went off on me in the car and said I lied and manipulated and humiliated and exposed his mom, and said he wouldn't have let me get away with it had he known. We had an argument, and he is demanding I apologize to his mom for my childish selfish behavior and for ruining Christmas dinner for the whole family. Am I the a-hole? No, absolutely not. Your husband needs to wake up to the fact that your mother-in-law's a little bit of a psycho, and you deserve your right to privacy where nobody's just gonna wander into your house unless you explicitly give them permission. Not the a-hole. You did expose his mom, and rightfully so. She needed to be exposed. Your husband is out of his mind for enabling and encouraging his mom's demented behavior. Mother-in-law and husband are major a-holes. Not the a-hole, but you also have a husband problem. Am I the asshole for asking mom's boyfriend to stop trying to parent me? My dad died suddenly about a year ago, and my mom found this really nice guy that she started seeing. I'm 23, male, and going into my final year of college. My mom's boyfriend has 2 daughters, ages 15 and 13. My mom has stepped in to be a mother figure to them, and the boyfriend has stepped into my extended family, becoming everyone's favorite uncle. And while I'm glad everyone else is comfortable, I'm not. He isn't a bad guy, I'm just still grieving my father, and it feels like he's trying to replace him. He tries to set rules for me, things like chores and curfew, that my dad specifically didn't because he thought they were ridiculous for an adult. Boyfriend thinks it's only fair because I have siblings now. I think it's ridiculous to have the same rules apply because of our age differences. He's trying to get me to share my stuff with his kids. They aren't lacking for anything, but he thinks it's only fair because family. I live in the basement of my mom's house. I have since I was 15. When you come in the front door, there's a door to the basement and the stairs go into the house, so it's pretty separated. So last night I was D&Ding with some friends and got home at 2 a.m. I had nothing to do until 3 p.m. today since classes aren't until next week and my new job starts in 2 weeks. So this has never been a big deal with my parents. I shot my mom a text and went to bed. Tonight though, man, boyfriend flipped. I got a lecture and sent to my room and possible loss of car privileges. I snapped and laid it out for him. I told him I'm leaving the city after I graduate. I told him I'm glad my mom found a new partner, but that I am not and will not be looking for a new father figure, and he needs to respect that. I told him our relationship won't be father-son for some time, and that he needs to respect me as an adult or that I won't want to have a relationship with him. He told my family and they think I'm the a-hole. Am I the a-hole? No, you are not. You're a 23-year-old adult and this guy is trying to police you like you're a 16-year-old? No, you're not. This dude just sounds like a tool. Even if he was your real dad, you're 23 years old. Why does he give a F if you get back late? For real, you are a full-grown adult. You have your own house key, you have your own car. You can just do whatever. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he got exactly what he deserves when he pushed his girlfriend away for being a gold digger? My brother is a very hardworking man, and at 27, he is now very wealthy and doing well for himself. He's been with this girl for 6 months, and throughout the time, we have gotten close because we both like hair, makeup, and shopping. I never knew there was anything wrong with their relationship except when she texted me last week saying she would love to hang out but thinks it'll be inappropriate because her and my brother broke up. I asked her why and she said she was sick and tired of auditioning to prove she was with him for the right reasons. She went on to say that my brother is paranoid she's after his money, so he would test her like 1, leaving out his bank statements on their bed and getting upset when she picked it up, 2, going out to a high-end restaurant he requested and leaving his wallet at home on purpose to make her pay the bill and prove she's not going out with him for money, 3, never buying her gifts and questioning her when she asked why he doesn't. I was shocked, so I had to hear my brother's perspective. We spoke and he told me everything she said was true and that there's nothing wrong with making sure his girlfriend is with him for the right reasons. He said he left his bank statements on the bed and was peeking through the door to see if she would be curious, and when he saw her pick up the papers, he knew in his gut she was using him for his money. So he set up the restaurant idea to see if she would get upset at paying a $500 bill, which she was. I asked him if he thinks her being an elementary school teacher could have contributed to her being upset at a $500 bill at a restaurant he wanted to go to, and he said no. He said that the straw that broke was when she asked him why he hasn't bought her a single gift since they've started dating, when she bought him a gaming console and new rims for his car, and he knew she was just discreetly asking him to buy her an expensive gift. He confronted her and said he thinks she's with him for his money, so she said let me do us both a favor and dumped him and blocked him. He's upset about the gold digging and when I laughed, he called me an a-hole. He said I would never understand what it's like being a rich man and being used, and I get that concern, but I told him if he thinks any woman will be okay with his tests and auditions, he's delusional as hell. If he doesn't want to be used for his money, he should start dating people as wealthy as him, or leave lower income people alone if he's not going to be genuine in his relationship until they pass his test. First off, you're not the a-hole. It's a reasonable reaction. If anything, it sounds like your brother's kind of just the mooch because he's forcing these people to buy him things. So is he really rich? I don't know. Not the a-hole. Sounds like you told your brother the truth. He sounds immature, and testing a partner never turns out well. Sounds like he is the effing gold digger, since he's racking up $500 dinners and expecting them to buy him gaming consoles and expensive rims and shit. Honestly, he's like delusional. Like, who thinks that other people are the gold diggers when you're the one getting the expensive gifts? You're crazy. Am I the a-hole for not telling my dad he isn't getting the inheritance he's expecting? My mother died when I was 16. My dad married another woman 2 years later. My grandparents, my dad's parents, hate my stepmother. I really don't like her either. Even after my half-siblings were born, my grandparents never warmed up to her. My grandparents are quite wealthy. My father has been banking on this inheritance for a while. He has even been not paying into his retirement because he is so sure that he will inherit the millions. I just found out on Saturday that I'm getting the majority of my grandparents' estate. My father is getting a token amount of $50,000, so he can't dispute it. My grandparents made me promise not to give out any money after, and I intend to keep my word. But I do feel really guilty that my father just spends his money as it's coming in because he's relying on money he won't get. I also found out my dad is in a lot of debt. Am I the a-hole for not telling him? Ooh, this one is a little tricky. I'm gonna say not the a-hole, since it's really not your responsibility to tell anybody, and it's more so your grandparents just kind of screwing your dad over. Not the a-hole. But your grandparents are kind of cruel for letting him keep digging a deeper and deeper hole, all the while knowing what he expects. They should go ahead and tell him so he can plan accordingly. Not the a-hole. I'd ask your grandpa to break the news to your dad, since otherwise you'll be left with the fallout. Very unfortunate situation. Am I the a-hole for keeping my website up after being asked to remove it? Ooh, this could be juicy. Depends on what kind of website. Back in November 2018, I was arrested at work in front of my boss and coworkers. It was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. I later learned at the police station that I was being charged with multiple felonies. This came as a huge surprise. Luckily, I was able to keep my wits and lawyer up instead of speaking with the detective. For $13,000, which completely wiped my savings, I was able to retain a criminal defense attorney. However, it cost me everything, and I was unable to pay my bond. This resulted in me staying in jail for a total of 54 days. At a status hearing, my attorney presented video evidence of me gassing up my car 3 hours away from where the crimes took place, and I ended up having all my charges dismissed. When I finally got out, I learned that I had lost my job, was in the process of being evicted, and my son was in the state's care. His mother is a heroin addict, and I haven't spoken to my own parents in nearly 15 years. They wouldn't let him go to my girlfriend because they didn't consider her family. Since my release, I've learned that I can't sue the police, and no one gives a shit that I was locked up for 54 days because the detective did poor investigation work. I've gone to the local press about this and was told that what happened to me happens quite a bit. They took down my info but never followed up. So what I did was create a website sharing my story. I also uploaded the police report and some other documents from the discovery. Literally the only reason why I was arrested was because an eyewitness said they saw me. If the detective had done his job, he could have verified that I wasn't even in town on the day the crimes took place. This is what pisses me off the most. My life was ruined because of a lazy employee. I'm writing this now because my website is now ranked number 2 on the first page of search results when you type in my town's name. I live in a touristy town and we attract a lot of visitors over the summer. My web traffic has more than quadrupled, and apparently it's gotten someone high up's attention. I received a cease and desist letter recently, which I showed to my attorney. He said sharing my experience online isn't illegal, and that everything I had stated was a fact or my own opinion, protecting me from a defamation lawsuit. Yesterday, I received a visit from 2 officers and the detective who had arrested me. He apologized, stating, "Mistakes can happen." They then talked to me about my website and asked if I could remove it. I said I would delete it on the condition that the detective leave his job and never do police work again. Suffice to say, that isn't happening. anything. After the visit I received, I'm more pissed off than the only reason the detective apologized to me was to get me to take down my website. I don't plan to, and the only one supporting this is my girlfriend. My friends think I'm being spiteful and have suggested that I just delete it. Am I the a-hole for keeping my website up? No, you are not. You are keeping police accountable, as you should, because they get away with this all the time according to the press that you talk to, so yeah, leave it up so people can, know that this is happening. Not the a-hole, but watch your back. It doesn't sound like they'd have much of a problem coming up with some BS to get you arrested again. This is very true. Definitely keep your wits about you, but it does sound like you have your attorney still, around, so you have good legal advice, I hope. Alright, we have time for one more. Am I the a-hole for ending the video here? Thank you all so much for watching once again. My name is Brandon, and I will talk to you another day.